Welcome, everyone. I'm Eric Blair Joanno, class of 2014. I'm very happy to welcome you to this networking and social impact pitch session sponsored by the Tamer Center for Social Enterprise and Climate Change, and happy to introduce Sandra from the center to tell you a little bit more about the format and the competition and the session afterwards.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm going to ask our pitchers who signed up before the session to maybe mill around this side. But we're going to ask you to stand right here. You have 2 minutes strictly, and then I'm going to wrest the microphone from you. We have about 20 people that applied, and so we'll see if everyone has turned up. But this is really an opportunity to hear from, what alums are doing around social and climate change. For those of you who are not familiar, the Tamer Institute now, we recently became an institute, graduated from a center, has existed in some form at the school since 1981, right? So more than 4 decades. But I think it's an exciting time at the school with Costis in particular, very interested in both the climate change aspect, how it'll infuse every part of business, every geography. So this next generation of students very interested in doing a lot of climate curriculum and experiential learning, etc. There's research projects going on, but equally important is our social mission, and that these two areas are interrelated. So there's a lot of exciting work going on around inclusive entrepreneurship and place-based ventures that engage people who are sometimes underserved. So all sorts of topics that we're now doing at the business school. If you're interested, my colleague Alison Klein has put out some business cards and there's a QR code. So please stay in contact with us. We'd love to hear from all of you, especially those of you who aren't getting our mailing list. And we'll keep you up to date on things as the school progresses. So with that, I'd like to first call, after we do our pitches, by the way, there are blank name tents, and I'm going to ask our pitchers if they wish to write a topic on the name tents and then go distribute themselves around the rooms. So there'll be an opportunity for sort of free flow networking. Sound good? All right. Our first pitcher, you've got 2 minutes. Christy, come and stand here because of the cameras.
Okay, but all right. Okay, I want you to picture the website for a climate tech startup or a renewable energy company or even the sustainability section of a corporate annual report. What's in your mind? Are you seeing windmills? Are you seeing maybe a parent and child walking through a field of grass that's blowing in the wind? Is somebody blowing a dandelion wistfully? Is it green? There are many images and words that we see over and over again in the climate space. And sometimes it's hard to tell if what you're looking at is legit or BS or frankly greenwashing, which is the worst. That's where my company, Corrali Partners, comes in. We bring more than 2 decades of experience at the intersection of media, technology, and strategic climate communications to this space. We work with startups, we work with corporate entities, we work with individuals, we work with investors, and we work with nonprofits to help them bring their products to market more effectively, to help them accelerate their growth, and even to exit at higher multiples. When we started in this 15 years ago, there were many people who did not believe climate change was real. It was a debate. The mass market did not accept it. And we used narrative strategies to change the game. And now we want to apply those same narrative strategies to climate solutions. We don't have a minute to waste on ineffective narrative strategies. If you have an interest in talking to us, I'll be over here. Thank you.
All right, Amanda Hamilton? No. Vincent? Oh, Amanda, thank you.
Good morning. Sorry if I get out of breath talking fast. My name is Amanda Hamilton. I'm the founder of ILA, or Intentful Sustainable Living for All. I founded it during Launch Your Startup, during the Executive MBA program, which I graduated from last year. ILA is about making bite-sized, sustainable lifestyle changes. So think about if you've read like Atomic Habits, what's 1% change that you can make in your everyday life that will make a huge impact. So, sorry, I told you I'd get out of breath. I am focused on large companies. So I work for a company of 2,400 people, and I'm presently in beta with them to get all 2,400 people to make these bite-sized lifestyle changes and then measure the impact. So we just had our launch event with Impossible Foods, which is one of our most sustainable clients, and got 2,400 people to swap out beef, pork, chicken for 1 day a week, and are measuring the impact on the environment and then measuring their continued change. So if we can get them to just continue that habit. And I'm really excited to say we got great traction, and we're continuing in the fall for Climate Week, and we're gonna do it with Bombas. I'm looking forward to launching with more companies coming up soon, and to make the world a more green and sustainable place for our future generations.
Vincent.
Okay, I have less of a pitch and more of me explaining what I do. I work for an independent power producer. We develop and own and operate power projects, solar and battery on a utility scale. So I want to talk about why I think U.S. power generation is important, what development actually is, and then just some thoughts on the industry generally. So some stats I looked up. This year, the world's generating 40 gigatons of carbon, CO2 equivalent, and you need to hit that 2% or 2-degree threshold, you need to cut that by 50% in 2030. So the U.S. is number 2 emitter. We generate about 6 gigatons of carbon per year, and the power generation industry, electricity generation, is 25% of that. So it's a big part of that pie, and you don't get decarbonization without solar, wind, storage, so on and so forth. So the development process is how a project actually becomes from an idea to start a construction. As gas and coal retires, you need more of that. It's a long, intensive process. I would say there's 2 parts that are 2 ways to look at it, kind of the binary risks of permitting, land, and interconnection, and then you have some economic risks related to signing contracts. So I won't get into all that in detail, but happy to talk about any part of that. The final thing I would say is the industry is volatile. I would say generally going in the right direction. You have a lot of somewhat aligned parties related to reliability, cost, and decarbonization, as I mentioned before. So would love to talk to anybody who's interested about that, and I can finish now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. All right, Fernando.
Hi, everybody. Fernando. I work for a cement company, Cemex, based out of Mexico. Hard to abate, so it's good to be here. We are delivering on the 1.5-degree curve, and we expect to continue reaching net zero by 2050. I head the corporate finance department, reporting directly to the CFO. So everything that is sustainable finance falls under me. We've been recognized as the best sustainability-linked loan in the world more than once. We did the first derivatives linked to sustainability, the first securitization linked to sustainability, the first green bond for the industry in the world. It actually was a corporate hybrid. Right now I'm working on trying to figure out blended finance to decarb our third-party haulers in Mexico and Colombia, and also trying to figure out how we can finance conservation by doing some structured finance. We are part of the UN GC CFO coalition next to Danone, AB InBev, and Enel. So we work very closely with the UN on trying to bring in sustainability and the SDGs into corporate finance. So if anybody's interested in that area, I'm here.
Next is Lawson.
Hi, I'm Lawson. I graduated 2019, and I was a 3 Cairns Climate Fellow, and I also was in the value investing program. So I focus on climate and value investing. So some of the work Fernando's doing in Cemex is very difficult work. It's tough to decarbonize cement and those types of industries. I want to tell you about some of the lowest value ways we can decarbonize the United States today, and that is coal. So coal used to represent 50% of the generation. Now it represents 20% of the generation. Compared to natural gas, it's 3 times as carbon intensive. And the good news is in 75% of areas, we actually have the solutions. So this one is much more knowing what we need to do and then pushing it forward. Electric utilities today dominate the coal. The coal that has retired and the pace has slowed down has all been in unregulated markets. So those are in markets where things are already occurring. So as an investor, I think this is very compelling, and we're digging through all the different coal companies today and looking for ways to transition. And the truth is, they can use a lot of the coal sites for renewables to co-locate any type of battery. Interconnection, as Vinny talked about, is a very big issue. And so again, you can use some of that value and actually, decarbonize in a very low-cost way. So that's probably the pitch on coal. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, next up we have Cindy Mullock.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Mullock. I am the founding executive director of the Harriet Tubman Museum of New Jersey. So this is a social impact project. We are just coming up on our 3rd anniversary, so we are a fairly young organization. And in that 3 years, Harriet Tubman, our connection with her is that very early in her freedom, when she had just liberated herself, she lived and worked in Cape May, New Jersey, and was working from there to earn the proceeds that she needed to keep continuing her missions back to Maryland to lead other people to freedom. So again, we're a fairly young organization. We focus on historic preservation, so working in creative placemaking and restoring sites that have been overlooked in our history. We focus on our interracial history in America and how to teach it. So we work with classrooms throughout New Jersey and throughout the region. And in those 3 years, we have been recognized by Smithsonian Magazine as one of the 10 most anticipated museums in the world. Thank you. In popular rankings by USA Today, we came in the number 5 best new museum in the United States. So in only 3 years. And most importantly, the state of New Jersey, our legislators, recognized us as the official Harriet Tubman Museum of New Jersey. And I'd like to emphasize that vote, both in the state Senate and the state Assembly, was unanimous. No opposition. So we hear a lot about the struggles in teaching our history these days, but there are a lot of people who are really supportive of teaching a more inclusive history. So this pitch, to me, is successful if you come visit or you visit us online. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have Sawa. Ooh, got props.
Good morning. So Africa has been my home for the past 15 years since graduating from business school in 2009. But Africa is also where the impact of climate change is arguably felt the most. Even though the continent is only responsible for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. And for women and girls who are already vulnerable, the impact is disproportionately greater. The good news is that there are solutions. Locally grown entrepreneurs in Africa, including those owned and led by women, are tackling the climate change with great strides. These are organic fertilizer companies, renewable energy businesses, to regenerative agriculture, and more. Here's an example from Tanzania, a premium tea brand called Kazi Yetu, which means our work in Swahili, that exclusively sources from female farmers and train them on regenerative agricultural practices. But many of the businesses are struggling with existing challenges across the continent, from lack of financing, limited talent pool, political and macroeconomic challenges. The list goes on. So we need more support, financial and otherwise, to scale these local solutions. I'm Sawa Nakagawa, class of 2009, Executive Director of Alpha Mundi Foundation based in Kenya. So join me to talk about creating an equitable and sustainable planet by supporting women-led local businesses in Africa. Thank you.
Okay, Diana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana McKegg, class of 2019, and I think my talk is very well placed after that last one. I work for an equivalent center at Santa Clara University called Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship. We have been accelerating social enterprises through a 6-month sort of mini MBA program, plus pairing with executive mentors from mostly Silicon Valley. Since 2003. We've accelerated over 1,400 social enterprises worldwide. And so during the pandemic, we were really dismayed to see that a number of our social enterprises were struggling with cash flows and staying afloat. So, we put our heads together and said, okay, how can we support these businesses? Let's start an impact investing fund so that we can really accompany and support our entrepreneurs, not just through this acceleration, but also by providing them the right flavor of debt capital at the right time to help them weather the storm. And turns out that was something that was really, really popular and needed. So we've kept on doing it even beyond COVID. So since COVID, we have made 29 investments, and we've catalyzed almost $20 million for our social enterprises worldwide. We have a goal of catalyzing $500 million for them by 2030, and we will be making a Clinton Global Initiative announcement, so stay tuned for that in the future. And our 2 thematic focuses are women's economic power and climate resilience, so very related to women agricultural farmers in Africa. Yeah. Oh, right. So the mission of Miller Center is accelerating social entrepreneurship to end global poverty and protect the planet. So really, we believe that women's economic power and climate resilience are a really big and important lever to pull in the fight against global poverty and making our communities more resilient for the future to come. So my name is Diana McKegg, class of 2019, and would love to talk to you about social entrepreneurship.
Well done. All right, next up we have Karen Kalina.
First off, really tough act to follow with all these amazing presentations. I'm Karen Kalina, class of 94. My first job out of Columbia Business School was with a group that was in the cellar doing sustainable investing, which later on grew up to be the MSCI index. So for those of you investing, it was way back when. I didn't stick with it because it didn't pay much. And my career continued to very large corporations, but my passion remained. And I'm here today really to ask you about some of your experiences in, I would say, large corporations that aren't necessarily sustainability focused, and how you've, I would say, worked your passion through that, especially through employee resource groups. One of my last roles, I was finance lead in a sustainable, employee resource group, and it was actually very discouraging. I saw how the employees had so much passion, and we use this as a recruitment tool, right, for all our new employees coming in. But then there was a very, I would say, disconnect between corporate policy and our influence on it, and sort of pushing that through and getting the voices heard. So that this disconnect I found disturbing. And I would like to just get an ideas of like what worked for people. We're all out there. I think we all have incredible interests. There's amazing firms, working in this area. But what if you work at like a big, let's say investment firm, and it's not you're not doing sustainable investing, but you have the employee interest, and how does that manifest itself? So my table's over there. I just like to get feedback and ideas. And Karen Kalina at 94. Thank you very much.
Nadia?
Hi everyone, Nadia Zaitz, class of 09. So I've been in the power space since '05. Was never a sexy space up until, more recently. Agree with someone's comment on decarbonizing coal. We've done a lot in gas-fired build out in the company that I've been with. We're an advisor called Whitehall and Company. We help folks find capital for their projects. So now, have been evolving into energy transition, and this is a very interesting space, a fragmented like solar was a decade and a half ago, be a lot of capital intensity. So this is where VC funding becomes tough because VC is not used to capital intensity of the energy space. And at the same time, you have, the infrastructure guys who have the capital but are kind of afraid of the scale-up risk, afraid of technology risk. So trying to work through fitting, sort of a round peg into a square hole and finding capital for the right opportunities. So, if you guys have an energy transition business, happy to talk to you about, your fundraising. Happy to talk to folks who are investing. And also on the side, I'm teaching a class at the Climate Institute on financing renewable energy. So building something over there in terms of getting the young folks comfortable with evaluating companies in the space, understanding how to finance them, a lot of project finance, some corporate finance. So any ideas on that, welcome a conversation there as well. Thank you.
Kenny?
Thanks, Sandra. Kenny Scheffler, class of 2009. So in the financial sector, return on investment is a key metric. In the health sector, a key metric is cost per life saved. I co-founded Family Empowerment Media in 2020, and we believe that we have one of the best cost per life saved metrics in the health sector. We believe we can save a life for the cost of $4,500 in philanthropic funding. How do we do that? Well, we focused on a high need area where there's significant potential for scale. And that is a family planning. Pregnancy is a real grave problem and can be really serious and dangerous problem in countries with weak health systems. Where we have started in Nigeria, 1 in 22 women will die due to a complication of pregnancy or childbirth. And a quarter of pregnancies are unintended. So if you're able to help people realize their family planning intentions and space out their pregnancies further or limit their pregnancies, you can very cost effectively save lives. How do we do that? Well, at Family Empowerment Media, we use edutainment. So these are radio programs that are entertaining and educational. We provide information about the use of contraception. There is available contraception, but in many cases there are kind of misunderstandings about side effects. There's stigma. There are other social reasons why people avoid using contraception when they are not seeking to have children. So we've reached 27 million people with our radio programs. We're in 9 states in Nigeria. We're expanding to Niger and Democratic Republic of Congo. And looking forward to talk to y'all.
More to come. Thank you. Do we have Paul O'Connor? Paul O'Connor? Is he in the room? Nope. All right. Christine, you're up.
Hi, I'm Christine Wang, class of 2019, and I'm the co-founder of Keenly, a technology platform that simplifies the process of reporting on your environmental and social impacts. So prior to Keenly, I was an investment analyst rating companies on ESG factors. We realized that there was a huge gap between what companies were reporting and what investors needed to see. And this is becoming a problem that's moving from voluntary to necessary. While you could get away with saying whatever you wanted before, this is becoming increasingly regulated, and there's a massive number of companies impacted by global regulation that's happening now. And this is a massive market opportunity. The global TAM is over $12 billion, and 99% of companies expect to invest significantly in technology to meet requirements over the next 5 years. The problem is companies aren't currently set up to report on non-financial reporting. Unlike financial reporting, where you really can't be creative, ESG is in the wild, wild west. There's a lot of confusion over what to report and how to report it. There's also a massive gap between the largest Fortune 500 companies and everyone else. That's why we founded Keenly. Keenly's proprietary algorithm simplifies the process of sifting through really complicated ESG reporting frameworks, analyzes the overlap, and prioritizes for companies the highest impact industry-specific topics, and makes it really easy for companies to gather that information which exists across the company. Since we've launched about a year ago, we've signed up multiple enterprise customers, are generating revenue, and just received our first institutional investment. Thank you. So come chat with me after if you believe in the power of data to accelerate corporate transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Ron.
Good morning. My name is Ron Prashker, class of '04. So since 2008, I've been a partner at a winery in Tuscany called Salcedo. In 2008, we set out to build the most sustainable winery in the world. At the time, we were already organic in the fields, and we thought we need to look holistically to the entire winemaking process to really be sustainable. So what we did is we decided to design and plan and build the first entirely self-sustaining off-grid cellar in the world, meaning energy independent, water independent. But as we heard yesterday from Professor Brody downstairs, if you don't measure, you don't improve. So the first thing we did is we set out to make this a research project together with the University of Siena, University of Florence. And we were the first winery in Europe to calculate the carbon footprint of a bottle of wine under ISO standards. And what we learned is that though we did a really great job by designing a beautiful winery and producing our own energy, recycling our own water, we learned that the biggest problem in carbon footprint is actually packaging and transportation. So at that time, we launched our winery, broke ground. 2011, it came online. It was 54% more efficient than any winery in the world. And we also learned that we have to work on packaging. So what we did from that point is, though we were already using fairly light glass, we went to super light glass. We have an average glass container that's 360 grams, where today the average is over 600 grams. By 2030, the industry wants to go to 450 grams, and we're already at 360. Now we're moving into alternative packaging, such as bag-in-box. So we have bag-in-box sales in the US and in Europe. Our bag-in-box is actually carbon footprint negative when you take into consideration the absorption of the vineyards. And what we did in this study, which is most important, we decided to make this open source. So we took our study, we gave it to the National Institute of Research in Italy and the Association of Wine Regions in Italy. And from that study, today in Italy, there's what's called the Equalita certification. Equalita certification is the certification of the whole entire Italian wine world, and now actually going to Spain and France. That is for sustainable winemaking, sustainable wineries. And that's 2 minutes. Come talk to me when you want to talk about wine.
All right. Leslie. Is Leslie Godekin here? No, Leslie. Then we have Robert Johnson.
Hello, Columbia Business School. I'm a class of 23 alum, so I want to welcome you guys to our new beautiful campus here. And I was a Friday, Saturday EMBA, so being here yesterday and being here today, it's deja vu all over again. Today I want to talk to you guys about Climate Kick. Climate Kick is a climate fintech that's going to market as a digital green investment bank. What does that mean? We're connecting asset developers, green asset developers, with green investors. So we're trying to provide clean, renewable energy to everybody. So how do we do this? So we engage asset developers at the site level. They have a project they want to finance, and then we, secondly, originate and structure a transaction. In terms of the assets, we're talking about solar, hydro, green hydrogen. And then in terms of the structure, we're structuring project finance, sustainably linked bonds, and green bonds. Then we run a sell-side process to identify the correct price and buyer, and then we distribute the asset. We distribute the asset in a traditional finance approach, or we can also leverage on-chain technology. So this is real-world tokenized assets. This has a couple of features from the blockchain. Speed of transaction and surety of investment. Then the second one is let's stick to the traditional finance approach. But anyway, so we're working on our first pipeline of transactions. We have about $200 million in country. We're headquartered in London. We also have an office in Hong Kong. I'm leading up the U.S. Efforts and very excited about the pipeline of transactions we're working on. We just did 1 year at Columbia Startup Lab, finishing that up. Just got accepted into Barclays Accelerator for climate fintech. So doing that in the U.S. and in London. That's where my co-founder is right now. We're in the middle of a $1 million pre-seed round that ends in June, and looking forward to talking to you guys. Thank you.
No worries. Nikoa.
Good morning. I'm so excited to talk to you about Level and also very nervous. So Level is the only truly multiracial professional women's network that was started from the ground up to invest in Black women. So in the US, our networks are very segregated. You look around your dinner table, your wedding party, your kid's classroom. Segregation is very stark. And statistically, 91% of white people's friends are white, 83% of Black people's friends are Black, and we know that the key to accessing resources is through our professional and personal networks. So who do you call when you need a doctor, a lawyer, when you need an investment in your company? More often than not, those people typically look like you. And we know that the racial wealth gap is also huge in this country. And despite Black women starting businesses at the highest rate, we receive less than 0.5% of venture funding. So at Level, we bring professional women together across industries to invest in Black women-owned companies. And we do that through a cohort model where our organization is intentionally 50% Black, 50% non-Black. Women go through a 10-week course where we do a deep dive on the history of the racial wealth gap because we think it's really important for everyone to be grounded in the urgency of why the work we're doing is so important. And also we welcome them and teach them how to become angel investors at the end of the 10 weeks. The cohort then decides which Black woman-owned business they're going to invest their time and their money in. And we've done this 17 times. My co-founder is also a CBS alum. We've done this 17 times, invested in 17 Black women-owned businesses, different phases, different industries. We've done it through safes, convertible notes, loans, and revenue shares. And our approach is really to have authentic conversations across race and take action by closing the racial wealth gap. And in doing something together, we're facilitating deep relationships. And then the women in our community also benefit personally and professionally.
Thank you, Nikoa. Camille?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kemi, and I'm EMBA 2019. And I'm mostly coming today not with a pitch, but more with a question that I'm grappling with, and I'd like to see how can we solve this issue together. And it's actually a really simple one. So I think it's simple to say that none of us, or very few of us, would be in this room if our parents or grandparents hadn't made choices, even before we were born, that we were going to be exposed to learning and knowledge. And without that, I think it's safe to say that we wouldn't be here where we are today. There are 450 million children in the world who, not their parents decided not to give them access to books. It's that the parents didn't have access to books. So we have 450 million kids today under the age of 10 that per UNESCO are unable to read a basic sentence. So what does that mean? It means that in the early ages, we're not exposed to concepts, to imagination, to curiosity, to new words, so how are we going to equip and expect these children to solve the climate crisis and be resilient in the face of it? So these children are now currently on a path to success for continued poverty, displacement, and further violence. So we also have a proven solution, which is us, that education works, reading works. So why not give access to kids to books, high quality books in the ages of 2 to 6 immediately on a low bandwidth app? Why do I only have 7 million users and not 450 million users when it's scalable, it's cost effective, it's easy? How come we cannot say, or how the question I have then is, how do we meet again in 15 years and we're able to say that we were able to solve the literacy crisis for 450 million kids? So that's the question I have for you today. Thank you.
Diana?
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Huang. I do something a little different. I'm the founder and executive director of the Asian American Women's Political Initiative. We're the only national level political leadership organization for Asian American Pacific Islander women. And so for 10 years, I could not convince people that our work mattered. And the way I explain it is that I could not convince people that Asian Americans weren't all doctors, lawyers, and engineers. And if I can't convince you of that, then why would you invest in me? You don't think our community has need. And then during the pandemic, we know better here than anywhere in NYC, there was intense anti-Asian violence and hate, followed by the Georgia mass shooting of 6 Asian women. And overnight, we got over 1,000 $1 to $2 donations. It was the first time in my lifetime that I'd ever felt there was a public consciousness that Asian Americans experience discrimination, that we experience pain. And I had a donor come to me who said, look, I've been doing the landscape analysis. You're the only one doing this work. I have money for you, but you have to scale nationally. And I go, okay, well, I've been crying for 3 weeks, so if you could give me a little bit of time, that would be great. And she said, no, there's a window of time where people will care about Asians. And I was like, she's right. And so we scaled nationally around this strategy of exactly that there's a window of time. So you don't care about Asians? Do you care about the presidential? We scaled to critical states where Asian Americans are the fastest growing population and where voices and votes can make the difference. So we're talking Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona. And let me tell you, the battle is real. I just got back from Georgia. Their governor just signed legislation that will ban Chinese non-citizen immigrants from owning land. That's one of 32 states where that's true. Okay. No.
Go find Diana. Amazing work. Shell.
Hi there, Shell Izzy, class of 2004. I'm not here pitching something, more just to offer my resources and knowledge, largely because the Social Enterprise Club and my time at Columbia is what got me started on my energy transition career. I did it before it was called Energy Transition. We had a speaker at a class and I totally accosted him afterwards and we spent 2 hours drinking and eating and then I got a job. So that was the beginning. Since then, I have had the pleasure of working for a lot of the most innovative and successful companies in clean tech and energy. C-Power, a New York-based company, one of the first demand response providers, Constellation Energy, where I did efficiency and all kinds of other things. It's one of the largest retailers in the country. NextEra Energy, largest generator of wind and solar and battery storage. And then Walmart, where I worked recently and was working on distributed generation, starting up a public charging business. There's a Walmart within 10 minutes of 90% of the US population. So if we can have chargers at Walmart's, range anxiety will go away. And then also working on fleet transformation. Transportation represents 29% of the global emissions in the US emissions. So tackling that will also make a huge dent. I am now currently searching for my next adventure and really enjoying spending the time advising some startups and funds looking, in many cases, for the first time to figure out how to invest in this space. So if I can give back a little bit, I'd love to. And thank you to Sandra, Ray Horton, and the Social Enterprise Organization.
Thanks, Shell. Miles Yorman. No Miles. Brian Monger. You want to come do your 2 minutes? Okay, no? Okay. Then Allison. Lucky last.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Allison Klein. If you don't remember anything else I say, it's right up there. So just get in touch with me. There are QR codes everywhere. But briefly, I am a CBS alum, EMBA Saturday, class of 2020, and now work with Sandra at the Tamer Institute, primarily around engaging with great alumni year-round. So on the climate side, we have a new climate practitioners network. Very happy to see a lot of those people in the room. If you've never heard that term before, but you are interested in climate, want to connect with fellow alumni, connect with us on a more regular basis year-round, sign up, talk to me after this during the networking hour. And stay for Gernot Wagner's talk later. He's also fantastic and very involved in a lot of our work in climate. Then on the social side, I run our nonprofit board leadership program. If you are already on a nonprofit board or in leadership at a nonprofit, I have opportunities for you. And if you are not and you would like to be, we have an amazing online directory, also some people in the room represented of nonprofits that are looking for CPS board members right now. You can find that through the QR code as well. And I think that's all. Looking forward to talking to you all more.
Thanks, Alison. All right, so now this is the free flow networking part. I'm going to ask our pitchers if they would like to take a blank name tent, write a topic that you would like to connect with other people in the room on, and then distribute yourself around the room. So, I think as you've heard, amazing. I'm always impressed by the incredible stories that come out of our alumni network. And look forward to staying connected with you. If you are interested in learning more or engaging with the school, please pick up a business card which has a QR code on it, and stay connected with us. Thank you all. We've got until 10:15, I think, in this room. And we'll give you a bit of a warning, but this is really just a time for all of you to connect with each other and some of our amazing alumni pitchers. Thank you.